Alright, here we go with the 4070 Ti Super. We are at 4K resolution and we have everything completely maxed out other than ray tracing. We do not have any ray tracing enabled at the moment. We are right at about 55, 53 FPS. Now it is going to run a little bit better in this area out here just simply because, or a little bit worse actually, simply because there's just a lot going on. There's rain effects, there's NPCs everywhere. Yeah, so we need to just come in here and make sure that we have everything completely pegged out. I just want to see what it would run like in the worst case scenario. So let's jump in and do a little bit of upscaling here in a moment. I'm just going to let it kind of do its thing right here at 60. So it is pretty well optimized because this is a very intensive setting right here with all the traffic and people walking around, not to mention the rain effects. So let's just see what a quality upscale would give us. It's going to be a pretty nice jump, I believe. It has been so far on all the other previous cards. This is a very well optimized title. Yeah, so right here you're at 82 FPS without any ray tracing on. So you don't need to really do any further upscaling. You've got 20 milliseconds on your PCL and 11.3 on your render. So everything looks very snappy, very responsive. And again, on the title like this, you don't need anything to be like super quick. Going to jump through these cutscenes. You will get a very big lift once you come into these more enclosed areas. So, you know, when you get out of that an opening scene where you've got, you know, all those NPCs, all that traffic, much more enclosed area right here. So that was more open. So it's just harder to run. And the game, in all fairness, you know, it performs very well, and most of it takes place in these closed off areas. So when I come into here, once I enter the hotel, you're going to notice that you're going to have a little bit more of a performance jump as well, and that's more representative of the whole game. Is this area in here? I played a lot of it. You do have a little bit of some open areas in some parts, but for the most part, you're just in these kind of closed off hallways. It's just more freaky. But yeah, I mean, right here without any ray tracing, it's still giving you about 100 FPS. All right. So I'm going to jump over and kick on a little bit of more upscaling just right here, just to kind of like get through that, just to give you that answer, because, you know, without any sort of ray tracing, you're looking really good. On a 4070 Ti Super, it is not a slouch by any means. These things are going to fall down right here. Oh, that scared me the first time. Didn't get me this time, though. I'm used to it. But yeah, we are at 100 FPS. I'll go in the bathroom here. And let's see what performance does, you know, just to kind of like work through that quickly. Not to be too exhaustive, but I just like to really show as many settings as I can. All right, here, so we are at 100 FPS on performance with no RT. Let's go ahead and grab this key and head on in. I'm probably going to do a quick restart, turn on that ray tracing. So I'll set that ray tracing to normal. Right after we get through this hallway. I just kind of want to see how it runs in here. Yeah, so we're like 99 FPS here. So this is a really, really solid way to experience this title with no ray tracing. Although ray tracing does amp it up quite a bit. I mean, you're in these areas with single point of light a lot, and it really makes it look extraordinarily creepy. So let's do that now. I'm going to back out, and I'll be right back with that ray tracing set to normal. All right, so here we are back at native with ray tracing set to normal. So we got a pretty decent drop, about 15 FPS or so. PCL's at 42, 41 milliseconds, which is still fine, but I would like to see how performance improves whenever you go to do some upscaling. So let's go ahead and just do that real quick. Just to kind of get this train back on the rails. All right, so we're going to just do a quality upscale right here with the ray tracing set to normal, and there you go. You're at 60 FPS with a PCL around 30 milliseconds, 65 FPS. It does take a little while to kind of like get everything set up whenever you make these changes. So I would encourage you to wait about 10 or 15 seconds before you judge what the actual setting, you know, gives you most of the time. But yeah, here's 65 FPS with just a quality upscale. You don't even need to go further than this. You can do some frame generation from here and have a really good time because it's going to go up dramatically once we come into here. Yes, you're at 71 FPS and looking really, really strong. So this would be one way to play it with just that ray tracing set to normal. Of course, we got 2 more settings we could explore. So we've got ray tracing high, and of course we have path tracing. So path tracing is going to be the heaviest hitter, of course, but we're just going to run through it here and do a little bit more exploration. We're going to head into here and see what we can expect from like an inside corridor kind of setting. So we are going to run into here and open the door again. All right, go ahead and kick our flashlight on. So yeah, we're still in the 70s, so this is pretty representative of the whole game right here. It runs about this well most of the time. So, you know, with that ray tracing set to normal, you get a little bit more atmosphere to it. But let's jump in and see what we can expect if we do some upscaling right here. So let's be thorough, and let's give everybody kind of what they're looking for. Let's come down here. Let's go to a balanced DLSS setting here. So that gives you an uptick to about, God, that got me again. I forgot all about it. Yeah, so about 79, 80 FPS here. All right, so if we go into this little bit more open area here, it'll be a little bit better to run it there. So let's come into here and go to a performance setting. You're going to be fine. This is a strong GPU still. You don't have to worry about you know, running out of performance or anything like that. You're at 89, 90 FPS here. I'm just going to make like a little loop just to give you all the numbers. All right. So again, I appreciate you watching my video, and subscribe if you haven't already. We're going to be running through all of the different cards on Resident Evil Requiem this week. I'm just calling it Resident Evil Week, but yeah, we're trying to get as much done as we can. Now, I will say that you know, about 81 FPS with a 22 millisecond PCL is absolutely more than enough for this title. But you know, just to keep it all clean, let's go in here and check out a little bit more upscaling before we jump over to the remainder of the test. So ultra performance here lowers your PCL to about 18 or so milliseconds there. So looks really good on ultra performance. It's, you know, performing about like how performance was on the 5080. So it does look really good though. I mean, it's a little bit less sharp, but it's not nearly like super blurry or anything like that. I think a lot of that has to do with the atmosphere. The atmosphere of this title really you can get away with a little bit more upscaling just because that softness to the image fits that grungy scene a little bit. So what I'm going to do now is just do a quick restart, kick that RT back up to high, and then I'll be right back. All right, so here we are at the RT high, but we have some upscaling enabled. So let's go ahead and get it back to native and just see what we can do there. So let's come up here. Let's go to DLAA. Let's see what we got. So we're right around 29, 30 FPS here. You know, definitely like a low-end console experience, honestly. So we can do a lot better than this. Let's go ahead and upscale to quality and see if that kind of gets us back in the game. We don't have to go that much further on our upscaling with just regular ray tracing enabled. This card still handles it very well. So we're at about 50 FPS here, and our PCL is around 35 milliseconds. But remember, this is a very hard area to run. It's probably the most challenging in the game. So once we get into this, you know, more closed off area, you're going to be okay, because that's how most of the game is. The environment's very closed off. It's meant to be, you know, super freaky and scary, so that makes sense. So we're going to be over 60 here once we get into the hotel. All right, let's just keep on rolling through it here. All right, about 52, 54. Everything looks really good, though. I mean, this is still a very strong card. The reason that I picked up this card, just fun fact, is that the 50 series past about the 5070 Ti have just exploded in price. And if you can find a 4070 Ti Super, especially used in good condition, it's a good way to get basically the same performance for way less money. I mean, you don't have multi-frame generation, but that's still like not that big of a deal to me. It's just this costs about half what a 5080 costs, and it's very comparable. So, you know, there you go. That's why I kind of wanted to run through some of these older cards. Not older, just last generation. They're definitely not old by any means, But yeah, we're about 60 FPS once we get inside here with these settings. I was going to skip that. So I would probably say in this particular situation, I would go up to a balanced upscale and then just be fine with that. Because you can pretty much max all this out, do a balanced upscale. That's going to get you over that edge. You're going to be able to, enjoy some high ray tracing. For most of the game is going to be over 60. You don't have to worry too terribly much about the parts that aren't. But I like to tune a game to what it's like most of the time, and not like the hardest possible area, and then just suffer the rest of the time with less visuals than you could have. So right here, let's pop that key in and run through it. All right, so you're about 70 FPS here, just under it at least. And this is a really good setting, so I would probably just come in here and throw on some frame gen at this point and call that a day, because you've got the VRAM to do it. You're at about 12.5. So once that frame generation kicks on, you're going to use a little bit more of that VRAM. It crept up to about 13.2, and you're at 118 FPS here with a PCL of 32 milliseconds. Now, you could come in here and do a little bit more adjustment. I'm going kind of on the fly here. Just to give you guys a little bit of an insight into kind of what I would do. I'd probably go on back up to quality and then call it a day there. So quality will still give you 100 plus FPS with a PCL of 36 milliseconds and a render latency of about 20. So this is probably how I would run it before I jumped into path tracing. I would just, use that VRAM you're paying for. So you're at 13.7 of allocation, you're at 12.5 of use. So kick that frame generation on if you get a nice PCL, and that right here, you're about 40 milliseconds, which on a title like this is more than enough. That's perfectly fine. So I'm going to jump over and go to let's do one more level of upscaling, just to kind of like show you guys what the performance would look like without any frame generation. Gives you about the same 70 FPS or so. A little bit better latency, but not by like a whole lot. So let's go over here and grab these wire cutters. All right, and then this thing falls for no reason at all, and then we need to go through this door. All right, so I'm gonna go through the door and then probably play for a little bit longer, and then kick over to the path tracing setting. So inside here, we're at about 80, looking really, really strong. So if you frame generated from here, you would have a really clean image, because performance still looks exceptionally good. There's nothing wrong with performance on 4K at all. So let's go to a 2x frame gen. So this is like really, really ideal. 130 millisecond or 130 frames, and only costs you about 3 or 4 milliseconds to kick that frame gen on. Just mainly due to boost. Boost works really, really well. All right, so let's jump into path tracing next, and I'll be right back. All right, so totally maxed out with path tracing. This is the supreme performance you can expect, 10 FPS. All right, so how do we fix this? Well, we need to upscale, that's for sure. Let's come into here, go to options. Let's get some upscaling going. We're gonna need more than quality, but I wanna see what it does on quality either way. This menu is even sluggish. I hope it doesn't crash. All right, so let's come into here, getting down to the DLAA section. All right, so we need to go up to quality. That's going to give us a little bit of a bump. Nothing enough, though. It's still going to run pretty bad. But, yeah, I mean, it's a really nice-looking game. Path tracing is beautiful in this title. You're probably going to need to go to performance with maybe even frame gen. Let's just get on into that cutscene over here. Before we get to that, let's jump over and just see what it would take in this area. I'm suspecting we're going to need performance just because it's running pretty slow. You could also manipulate some of these settings here, but they do a lot less than what just upscaling would do, and it makes it a little easier. All right, so yeah, we're at 30 FPS with performance on. So once we get through this area, I just want to see how it runs once we get into the main section of the title. But yeah, 59 milliseconds is fine. I mean, it's a little high for this game. I mean, a little high for like a competitive game, but for this game, anything around 50 is fine. All right, so we're running better in here. Yeah, so we got 47, 46 right here. So this would probably be, you know, where I would start and then potentially do some frame generation depending on what my PCL does. So in this area, we're about 50 FPS. All right, so let's jump in and just do some frame generation and see what we can expect there, because it is going to need it. All right, so let's come in here, go to frame gen, DLSS 2X, good deal. So that's going to give us a nice bump. All right, so man, this is nice. All right, so we've got 78 FPS. This is what frame generation was for. If you need to just smooth your image out and you have enough play in your latency to afford to do it, which this game does well. You know, I mean, with that boost on, you've got 40 milliseconds with a 2x frame gen, running full path tracing, everything maxed out on 4K with last generation's GPU. I mean, it's just so good. That is so good. Let's go ahead and play through this a little bit. All right, so we need to grab this key, flip this over, grab the key. But yeah, I mean, the 4070 Ti Super, I believe I got this off of eBay. If you're looking for one, just make sure that you get a warranty. Easiest way to do that is something like eBay. Find the eBay refurbished listings. Those are qualified for 6 months to a year of warranty. Just make sure you get a warranty whenever you're buying anything used like a GPU. Some things you can afford to go use with and not worry too much about it. Cases, you know, sometimes power supplies, but I would not trust a GPU without a warranty that's been used. So just a little tip. But yeah, we're in here about 85, 86 FPS here, and everything's looking super creepy. This game is so scary. I'm gonna just keep running through it here, but yeah, we got a pretty good performance. Let's go up to ultra performance just to kind of see what it might look like when we get that L model override as far as performance goes. Let's come into here, because right now it's still on the old stuff, but ultra performance gives you roughly 80 FPS here. It still looks really, really good though. I mean, ultra performance still looks nice enough to use it at 4K. And yeah, with some frame gen, you'd be pretty high. So let's do that now. Before we close it out, I just wanted to thank everyone for jumping in here and hanging out and seeing about all these different tests I've been putting out. Really do appreciate it. And if you could hit like and maybe share it with someone you think might get something out of this, that would be cool. But yeah, we're at 151 FPS, 140. Yep, looking really good. Still pretty sharp, even though for ultra performance on DLSS 4, it still looks really, really good. So I'm going to jump out of here. You can join if you want to. It does not, we'll never have anything that is behind a paywall. I will never, ever do that. This is just a way for you to support me if you want to. If you don't want to, that's fine. Or if you can't, no big deal. I just wanted to mention that it is open now, and anything you can do would be greatly appreciated. But again, the best thing to do is just watch all my videos for as long as you can. That is what really makes everything happen. So I really appreciate it, and we will see you all in the very next video. Peace.